now, viewers, we move ahead. India is waging a war on drugs at a record pace. Home Minister Amit Shah has announced a 3-year nationwide campaign in March focusing on collective ruthless approach toward drug supply chains. Last week in Devbhoomi, Uttarakhand, security forces seized significant quantities of charas in anti-narcotics operations. In a joint operation by Bhimtal Police and ANTF Kumaon, smugglers with 2.683 kg of illegal drugs were caught along with a pickup and auto car. Today, Assam police has seized narcotics worth 14.5 crore rupees and arrested 7 people in twin anti-drug operations. Now in Mizoram, authorities have seized methamphetamine tablets valued approximately 3 crore rupees in a joint operation along the Indo-Myanmar border. At the core of this problem are India's borders that have been used to smuggle these drugs in. How do we tackle this? We're going to ask and focus on this with our experts joining me. I have former ACP Mumbai Dhanraj Vanjari. I have defense expert retired Major General Anuj Mathur and editorial director Madhav Nalapat. I also have former IG BSF Rajesh Bhargav. Thank you to all for joining us on this. Firstly, I want to go across to former ACP of Mumbai, who's also joined as Janraj Vanjari is joining us. Thank you very much for joining us. Firstly, it's common knowledge that most of this drug money in many instances, especially when it's coming from across the border, is used to fund terror activities. What can you tell us more about this? Where does this money actually go?
Actually, we are quite late to understand this terminology, which is called a drug terrorism. There is a drug terrorism being played on India and many other countries like India. It is not a national, it is international racket working against India. Now the question comes, why they are working against India? Because India is the top class country in the form of number of youth. We have more than 58% young generation. If this young generation keeps on progressing, there won't be delay to become a superpower in the world. So internationally there is a threat to India that let their young lads be spoiled by drug, and that is why I called it, not world called it, it's a drug terrorism. Now how we magnify it, how we understand this. In one state like Kundra in Gujarat, or maybe Maharashtra, maybe Madhya Pradesh, maybe UP, now the state like Mizoram, the state like Devbhoomi, Assam, all these border states they have covered just to plug in the drugs inside. I have a basic question. International drug racket against India, drug terrorism, yes. What our internal security is with? Are we competent? We have arrested so many people. We have seized quintals and tons of drugs so far. Even a small village, I tell you, in Maharashtra, Karanja is a small village. A old factory was destroyed, and there they found, when it was raided, 360 crores drug. The population of that village is not more than 40,000. And in such a magnitude, if this drug menace and drug terrorism is spreading, I really worry for my young generation, what will be the future for them. Psychologically, they have been completely corrupted. NDPS, yes, NDP, narcotic, drug, and psychotropic substances. Psychotropic substances spells something very specific, because this particular drug has a capacity to spoil psychological strength of the youth of India, and that's a major danger. Now, I would request all our intelligence agencies, our enforcing agencies, including military intelligence and our police force, to be more and more and more stringent against this, and once for all, save our children, save our grandchildren.
All right. I want to go now to Mr. Bhargav, who's joining us as a former BSF IG. Sir, what I want to ask you is whether there is enough manpower at the border areas, whether there's need for more AI-based surveillance, whether intelligence and coordination are functioning smoothly. Is it sufficient, the resources that the BSF have right now to tackle with the smuggling of drugs?
Look, manpower has very little to do with the drug smuggling. Just must be clear, because any amount of troops you put on the border, drug smuggling would still take place. And the drug problem in India is, it is incidental, because we on the west, we have this golden crescent, and on the east side, we have this golden triangle. So any transshipment of drug between these two has to pass through India. So when the drugs pass through India, it also has some addiction property in between also. People get addicted because something is passing through India. So some of the trips, they go by just you can say for the trial purpose, and then they get addicted. Why the Punjab was drug addicted? Of course, now there is a control on that. The reason is very simple, because the entire border is fenced, and now the amount of drug that used to pass from Pakistan to this side has been stopped. Almost just 1 or 2% is still there, because they throw it by this drone or other means. But otherwise, that mass transshipment of drug is not there now. And there are two reasons also. Because although you have said, what is the whether the troop concentration can stop it, but I go slightly beyond that. In Afghanistan, earlier there was a lot of opium production, and from that they used to make morphine that used to come to Pakistan, and then from Pakistan to India. Now the situation has changed in Afghanistan. Situation has changed in Pakistan-Afghanistan border also. So that type of transshipment from Afghanistan to Pakistan is not easy, not very conducive for the transshipment of drugs. And then the Punjab border, or you can say the Pakistan-India border, is also completely fenced. Of course, some drugs still come from LOC in J&K, but that is a very small part of that. Now the question comes, what is happening on the Myanmar border? Those who have seen this Myanmar border, they would agree that of course the troops are there, but it's still just passing off 5 or 10 packets of some drugs is very easy. And moreover, there is one thing. There is an agreement between India and Myanmar that the locals of living in the border area, they can cross perhaps 8 kilometers this side and 8 kilometers this side without any checking and freely. They say it is their normal, because some of the family, they stay on the other side of border, some stay this side. So the government, both the governments, they have permitted them to cross over from Myanmar to India and from India to Myanmar within that 16 kilometers of band. And they are not checked. They are permitted to carry headloads. And in headloads, what they are carrying, it is impossible to check 100%. So that is the reason that there is smuggling from that side. Now, as I said, the smuggling of narcotics from the Punjab is reduced now, but the Myanmar border is still almost open, and a lot of drugs, they take place from Myanmar to India. And why to India? Why not to other places? Because it is very easy to come to India, and then from India there are a lot of seaports, airports, from where it can be transited to other part of the world, particularly Europe or other areas. Whereas if they take the other route, that is from Laos or Thailand or Vietnam side, it's a very long route to reach its destination. The destination for all the drugs, for almost all the drugs, is Europe and Africa. So that is the reason that there is a lot of smuggling from Myanmar side and the number of troops. You can see when the militants or the infiltrators can get through, despite the heavy deployment of BSF or army, whatever is there, then there is a problem in passing just 10 or 20 or even 30 packets of jug from that side to this side and disperse it off. Myanmar border, India border is a rugged terrain, full of jungles, very easy for the smugglers to hide themselves or to hide their packets somewhere and then later on pick it up. So that's the reason I say, of course, manpower would reduce it, number of troops deployed on the border will reduce it, but it cannot stop it 100%.
All right, sure. That in fact brings me to my next question for General Mathur. General Mathur, drug trafficking in the northeast often intersects with insurgency. How are proceeds from these busts, whether meth or heroin networks, potentially funding militant groups, and what is the national security implication?
Jai Hind, Kriti. First, let me give a little more thing on the free move regime. Indo-Myanmar border has had free move regime from 1968 onwards. It was 40 kilometers on either side. It was 40 kilometers one could travel into each other's country without any documents. It was reduced to 16 because of all these reasons. What we've just seen, and it continues to be 16. Now our Home Minister had gone and they are seriously contemplating removing this free move regime. Once this free move regime goes, things may improve there. But I agree with the IGBSF that even after that has happened, because of the terrain, it facilitates this kind of infiltration. And no amount. So what we need to do is we need to go technical. We'll go to that thing later. Now we have to see the proximity to the Golden Triangle. Myanmar is the highest producer in the world, probably, of these narcotics and the synthetic drugs, and that from there they travel to India. Now, what is the connect with the insurgent groups? The insurgent groups are working, and they are actually either carrying the drugs, or they are taxing the drug lords for safe passage of drugs from that area, because those are the areas which they are dominating. They are dominating by their activities. Now, what we need to do, we need to make sure that one, this border is taken care of. We have already started part fencing of Indo-Myanmar border. I hope we are aware. We have already fenced some border on Manipur side, and we are doing the similar thing on the Mizoram border also a little bit. I'm aware of that. Now the issue continues to remain that why through Assam? What is happening is they are getting these drugs, they are trafficking it to Assam, and from there they are sending it across the nation. Bulk of the drugs which are brought like this are meant for India, as the ACP was trying to say, and it is an absolute fact that they are wanting to make sure that these drugs find places within the country. That is another point, Kriti. And the last thing that I would want to mention here is that where drugs flow, money flows, and this money is going into anti-national activities. This drug money, 1 minute please, Kriti, this drug money is a major source of terror funding. And all these, so that is the connect between the terrorist organizations, the secessionist organizations, and these drug lords. Another issue is that the situation in Myanmar. Now, whenever you have weak governance, whenever you have disturbance in that area, that takes you to a very, very fertile, kind of thing where you can do these things and get away. That is why now the condition, the political situation in Myanmar And otherwise situation in Myanmar has been very, very bad. And since there has been governance deficit, there has been all sorts of things. So that has provided a very, very fertile place for these organizations to mushroom. And once these organizations have mushroomed, they are then finding their way into India, and from India then it is being sent. This also has an international national connotation. The African cartels, the Nigerian cartel, they are all involved. And I will go one step ahead of what he had said. He spoke about narco-terrorism. It is a narco-war. It is not only terrorism. It is no more only a question of drug. It has direct security implications on your nation. And these security implications, we need to address them, and address them very, very correctly.
Right.
So what we have. Okay, Kriti.
All right, Mr. Manjari, I saw you raising your hand. Please do make a quick point, and then I'll come for a question to
Yes.
Professor Nalapat.
Okay, just a quick point that as Mr. Mathur, I appreciate. This is not the only, border is not the only place. What about across the border? What about the air being used as a
Yes.
transport of the truck? What about the shipments? What about the naval? The Kundra port, we had 20,000 crores drugs seized.
Yeah.
That was a shipment, entire shipment. What to do of this? The main important thing what he addressed, I appreciate,
Exactly.
Mr. Again, that drug is being used internationally as a approved currency by underworld, economic underworld, I say. And that is the major threat. We need to form a very drastic, different strategy to counter this.
Absolutely. All right, Professor Nalapat, now the Golden Triangle synthetic drug boom, meth or yaba affects multiple countries. So what multilateral forums, whether BIMSTEC, ASEAN or UNODC, should India push for coordinated action, precursor control and precursor chemical tracking?
Look, first of all, I'm glad the Home Minister has really launched this campaign, and it's not come a moment too soon. I would like to point out with great respect one fact, and that is what is happening now is that Pakistan is sending the drugs to Bangladesh, and Pakistan has got absolutely free access in, unfortunately, Bangladesh. And from Bangladesh, they are being smuggled into India. So, unfortunately, the Pakistan link is still very much there. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, there are some rogue actors there who are against the Afghan government. They are still supplying Pakistan with drugs. And Nigeria, of course, is absolutely accurate. It's one of the main sources for this kind of transshipment of drugs. So, once again, the Home Minister doing very good work in the sense of trying to plug the gaps. But I also want to add to this point. We have got, as has correctly been said, nearly 60% of our population are youths. Now, many of them, even though they are graduates and postgraduates, they are either unemployed or underemployed. And as a result, they are very frustrated. Now, they take drugs as a way of escaping for a few hours that frustration, that depression. So one of the important things to remember is that we have to tackle the economic situation as well. We have to ensure that joblessness is reduced, and more importantly, that youth, for example, who are very well qualified, they have got the opportunities to work in well qualified jobs, whether in India or anywhere else. Otherwise, what happens is you have somebody who's working in a job because he's completely overqualified for that. He becomes as frustrated as a youth who does not have a job. So it's a complex problem. But the government of India, I'm glad, is working hard on it. But again, it's a complex problem. It involves the economy, and I quite agree with the discussion said that one of the objectives is to destroy the fiber of the youth of India. But the youth of India are a big demographic asset, and turn this asset into a liability to 2 or 3 months, forget about 2 or 3 years of drug addiction. It affects your mental stability, it affects your cognitive ability, it affects so many things about you. So that is a very important point to make our the demographic dividend into a demographic disaster. So we have external enemies who are working, who are doing this systematically. And for some time, for example, India was used as a transshipment point for drugs like fentanyl. And the fentanyl is then sent to the United States. So now, of course, under this government, a lot of that has been blocked. But still, the problem is there. There's no question about it. And I'd like to make one final point, which is that, I mean, as I understand it, last year we made something like nearly 4 lakh arrests for drugs. 4 lakhs. And guess how many of them were successfully prosecuted? 300. Out of 4 lakh
Yes.
arrests, 300 were successfully prosecuted. That
Right.
rate of prosecution must come up at least 15 or 20%. This 300 out of 3 lakhs is nothing. It's not even 1%.
Yeah.
So that big problem in our drug situation, and we have to handle that as well. But again, I repeat, happy about this, and I also agree that there needs to be a very wall between the east as there is in the west. Then that loophole will be plugged. And secondly, the small catches, a few kilos here, a few kilos there, don't make a difference. You have to get hold of the narcotics, big shots. And supposing you identify them as staying in some other country, most of them are staying in other countries. You have to go to the host government and tell this man the narcotics big shot. Here is the evidence. Take action against him or her. So it's a broad-based situation, and I'm very sure that with his enthusiasm, with the
Right.
dedication, Home Minister Amit Shah will succeed in this mission of trying to ensure that our youth are protected from narcotics. Thank you.
Right, Mr. Manjari, I want to come to you for perhaps a final question. Like Professor Nalapat was pointing out, conviction rate is very low. Oftentimes, these criminals who are caught with huge quantities of drugs get bailed rather quickly. They get very successful lawyers who take huge sums of money from them, and they're finally able to secure bails and they get released rather quickly. How do you see the law functioning in being able to convict these drug smugglers? What loopholes exist that need to be fixed?
Your question, frankly and openly saying, points out towards who is the kingpin. If kingpin is very smart and a very big fish, and that's why the cases go in acquittal, or there is no proper investigation sometimes, there is some lacuna, something is there. But in all big drug halls, I remember DRI's raid, a very drastic amount of drug was, crores rupees was seized and all that. In no case so far, the kingpin has been tapped and arrested. The small peddlers been arrested and charging them in the court of law. Of course, even if they are convicted, what difference it will make if the kingpin survives? If Bombay-based Daud gang is finished, what is the use if Daud is still alive and surviving out of India across the border? So question remains this: who has to bail the cat? Now repeatedly it has been said, Home Ministry, I appreciate Home Ministry are doing extremely well, no doubt about it. But the magnitude of the crime should counter the magnitude of the proportionate action against it. And why in those cases there is no kingpin been arrested so far or hanged or been punished? And what is there in this country? One can openly say with open eyes, who can say on oath that all these criminals involved in drug war or drug terrorism or narco-terrorism is not having patronage politically? Do you have courage to say that? Do you have data to prove that? My question, being an ex-cop, I get my blood boiled. There is a provision in NDPS. If there is a lacuna in the investigation, the IO would be treated as accused. How many cases I asked the judiciary? How many cases I asked the government? You have punished the investigating officer if he has kept some lacuna. Always it's a matter of system. if system works properly, if there are the people who are governing the system, had the intention to protect the youth, there's a big, in all panel, everyone is saying it's a need to protect our young mind. If they are corrupted, India would be finished tomorrow. There won't be Indian culture, there won't be Indian ethics. So, entire hue and cry is for that. Who is the kingpin and why he should not be brought to the noose of law? And I think after this debate, this community will understand that there is a big challenge in India. If you put a step with drugs and try to make उड़ता पंजाब किया पूरा हिंदुस्तान अगर उड़ता करने की कोशिश करोगे तो उड़ जाओगे. ये मैसेज हमको बड़े स्ट्रॉन्ग डायमेंशन में देना पड़ेगा. प्रोफेसर साहब की मतों से मैं सहमत हूं कि हमारी होम मिनिस्ट्री कर रही है, लेकिन जितना स्ट्रॉन्ग जाना चाहिए था वो नहीं गया. और इसीलिए हम आज डिबेट कर रहे हैं कि हमारा म्यांमार से आ रहा है, देवभूमि से आ रहा है, मिजोरम से आ रहा है. ये क्या हो रहा है? कोई तो इसको एड्रेस करे मेरे भाई. थैंक यू सो मच.
Right. Thank you all, gentlemen, for joining me in this discussion. With that, viewers, it's time for a very quick break. We'll be back with some more news on the other side.